Hello and welcome to a brand new broadcast here on India Today. I'm on a bus now, headed once again to the front lines of Gaza in southern Israel. It's day 3 of a ground operation into the Gaza Strip. Airstrikes, tank shelling, artillery pounding, all of it is continuing, and I'm going to be witnessing it once again on day 3 of this operation. But what is the next step? Where is this operation actually headed? Over the next hour, I will be decoding that in detail.
Day 3 of Israel's big Gaza offensive. From land, sea and air. War raging for 24 days and counting. Israeli hostage found dead in Gaza. Will there be a bigger escalation? Most exhaustive coverage from the front line. India Today's Shivarur in the war zone.
It's been an especially aggressive and dramatic third day of the ground operation in Gaza, supported by at least 600 airstrikes. We're told by the Israeli Defense Forces that anti-tank missile positions, staging areas, places where Hamas terrorists had collected for strategic meetings have all been targeted. And for the first time, we're also getting information that Israeli special forces inside the Gaza Strip have been helping with targeting intelligence and information, allowing the Air Force to strike with even greater accuracy at Hamas targets. Take a look at the very latest of what's happening inside Gaza. We also have some pictures.
Plumes of black smoke rises over Gaza Strip as Israel intensifies its air and ground attack. IDF tanks and fighter jets pounded Gaza relentlessly after Israel expanded its ground operations. The Israeli forces have claimed that they have struck over 450 military targets linked to Hamas in Gaza. Israel is set to intensify its ground assaults. The war is likely to last longer than anticipated.
We continue to fight in Gaza. We are proceeding with the stages of the war according to an organized plan. The IDF is expanding its ground operations in the Gaza Strip gradually, and the size of its forces. It will take time. We will know how to adapt ourselves to the developments in the order to face the goals of the war.
Israel's Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, met soldiers on Sunday, where he declared their focus remains dismantling Hamas.
This is a war with multiple stages. Today we move to the next one. Our forces are currently operating on the ground in the Gaza Strip. These activities are being supported by precise and heavy fire, all in service of the war's objectives, dismantling Hamas, securing our borders, and the supreme effort to return the hostages home.
As Israel scales up attacks, Hamas is firing rockets at Israel, most of them foiled by the Iron Dome air defense shield. Thousands have lost their lives in Gaza since the war broke out after the horrific Hamas terror attack on October 7th. Gaza is bracing for the worst and probably the bloodiest phase of war ever. With Shivarur in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
I've spent the last few days on the Gaza front, and what I saw there, what I heard there, were incessant airstrikes, tank shelling, the incursion visible and very, very audible. Here's the latest ground report that I sent in for India Today that depicts what I saw and heard from the front. The ground operation is getting definitely more intense. And now it's an air, sea and land attack on the Gaza Strip. In there is the Gaza Strip. It's sometimes difficult to believe it's so close because we've been talking about it so much. on the ground in Gaza, it doesn't look like Israel is playing ball with Hamas. There's been a rocket intercept. I think there's been a rocket intercept. That's the northern end of Gaza behind me, and we arrive here just after Israel has finally begun a big-scale ground operation into the Gaza Strip. It's an air, sea and land attack on the Gaza Strip. Thus far it was primarily a relentless series of airstrikes. There were some special forces naval strikes. Gunboats were also softening up targets, on the coast of Gaza and, port infrastructure of the Hamas. But now with tanks rolling in, as special forces have been there for a while, but with tanks rolling in, it becomes a ground invasion. We don't know how many tanks there were, but a video put out by the Israeli Defense Forces suggested there was a solid column of tanks that had rolled in right now. Obviously, the number is not going to be revealed. We've just seen at least 3 airstrikes while we've been here. If you kind of squint into the distance, you can actually see 2 plumes of smoke. So not very far from where we are, 1 strike and another a little distant. So 150 airstrikes took place. We understand from what the IDF has told us, because there's very little independent information coming in from Gaza, which has been completely shut out, with the internet and communications being completely knocked out. Okay, there's been a rocket intercept. I think there's been a rocket intercept right over here. Okay. There's been a rocket intercept. Just one second. I want to try and show you this image. Okay. Right over our heads. Right over our heads, there's been a rocket intercept, which means we need to probably take cover. But one of our constant companions through our coverage here has been a Hermes 900 drone. In the background you can just about perhaps hear the hum of that drone. It's a constant audio companion here, because that drone is up in the air, giving Israeli Defense Forces a complete bird's eye view of what things are looking like as those bombs drop in Gaza behind me. Hostage situation has actually gone critical right now, because after 22 days of operations, it looks like something is fundamentally flipped in how Israel is looking at this whole thing. When the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister of Israel met with the families of the hostages, there was a great deal of anger, because they believe that they've not been notified about these ground operations, and they believe that this increasing intensity of ground operations actually jeopardizes their family and the hostages who may be hidden in some of these tunnels, who may be hidden in some of these positions. The Hamas last week, remember, had said that 50 of the hostages have been killed as a result of Israeli airstrikes. There's no confirmation of this, no proof of this has been provided so far, but you can imagine the levels of anxiety among the families, because so far they had thought that the ground invasion was not happening because out of concern for the safety of the hostages. But now that it's going through and it's increasing in intensity, does that mean that Israel is no longer prioritizing the hostages? Because Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Defense Minister have both said that they are doing everything they possibly can to bring the hostages back. But how does that align with incessant airstrikes and bombing and tank shelling that's taking place in that area? There's a huge risk for the IDF in getting into these tunnels and navigating them, because that'll put their own soldiers and officers at a great deal of risk, because they will be entering an area which is kind of the Hamas's area. They know it better than the IDF, no matter how much technology the IDF may have. So this is going to be a huge risk. How they navigate it, how they actually are able to turn the tables on Hamas as far as the tunnels are concerned, is going to be, in my view, one of the principal challenges of this urban warfare campaign. We've just arrived here amidst multiple plumes of smoke. You can hear F-16s in the air. There's definitely tank shelling coming from that direction. We're standing right at the tip of the northern end of the Gaza Strip. That's the fence behind me. There's a huge haze of cloud over part of it. You can hear machine gun fire. So all manner of ammunition now being used, and can not only be seen but can also be heard over here. That's medium machine gun fire. I'll tell you what all I can hear that's being dropped on Gaza right now from this particular position near Sderot in southern Israel. Okay, that was an airstrike. You can hear an airstrike in the distance, probably somewhere near Gaza City. You can see a great deal of smoke right over there, probably where an airstrike has just happened, or where a tank shell has just probably landed. There's machine gun fire, which is likely coming from an attack helicopter, though we can't hear that just yet. There are multiple aircraft in the air, and remember, this is a few hours after 150 airstrikes apparently happened overnight, where the Hamas naval commander, the aviation wing head, was also apparently killed. Further south from here is where bunker busters, which are penetration bombs, are being used to hit Hamas tunnels. But this is the northern end, so even this part where the actual incursion has happened into Gaza is being softened up and hit quite a bit. Further south from the tanks, there's a great deal of special forces who've also entered from the sea as well as from the middle part of it. In that direction, which is the northeastern end of Gaza, is where a lot of tanks have entered from another particular part, and that's probably why the echo of tank shelling is coming from that direction. But this is very, very much the beginning or the setting of the stage for a larger ground incursion. This is a visible and an audible escalation that we're reporting right from the Gaza front. This is Shiv Arur in Stereo Israel for India Today. In the many days that we've been reporting from southern Israel and elsewhere, we've also told you how Israel has now been forced to fight on multiple fronts. From southern Lebanon, the war with the Hezbollah is expanding almost to a full scale, and now the Syrian front has become a full-fledged exchange as well. Artillery and rockets from Syria and Israel responding. It's the big two fronts that are now emerging. Take a look at this.
The Israel-Hamas war theatre is rapidly widening. Israel is now fighting on multiple fronts as airstrikes and punitive actions escalate across the Palestinian territories, Lebanon and Syria. In a big escalation, the night sky along the southern border with Lebanon lit up after massive flare bombing from the Israeli army aimed at targeting the Hezbollah terror pads. Israeli strikes come in response to launches towards Israeli territory from Lebanon. IDF aircraft struck terror targets belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization in Lebanon. Similarly, responding to rocket launches from Syria towards Israeli territory, the IDF struck military infrastructure inside Syrian territory.
Israel right now is not fighting on 2 or 3 fronts, but probably on 5 fronts. There has been major escalation yesterday in the north with Lebanon, with the Islamic Brotherhood's militant wing and Hezbollah firing number of missiles into northern parts of Israel. There have been escalation on Gaza, where IDF on ground and in the air is pounding Hamas targets. There have been continuous rocket firing also from Syria now.
We are not going to expand the war. We already have a war with Iran by proxy, Hamas and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is in war with Israel, low intensity for the time being. One has to remember what is the head of the octopus or the snake in this case, and we will find a way for having everyone pay their dues when it comes to it.
As the flare bombs illuminate the night sky over the conflict zone, they light the risk of a wider West Asia conflict. With Shiv Arur and Rajesh Pawar in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Israel embassy in India has been shocked in disbelief over a Hamas leader addressing a gathering, a political meeting in Kerala. It has sent shockwaves right through the Israeli community in India as well, with the ambassador now speaking to India Today's Gaurav Sawant and calling for India to do the right thing and ban Hamas, just like it has so many other jihadi groups. The Israel embassy in India has been shocked in disbelief over a Hamas leader addressing a gathering, a political meeting in Kerala. It has sent shockwaves right through the Israeli community in India as well, with the ambassador now speaking to India Today's Gaurav Sawant and calling for India to do the right thing and ban Hamas, just like it has so many other jihadi groups.
the kind of weapons that you're using now,
Yeah.
the sponge bombs, the penetration bombs, air-to-ground missiles that are being used, your tanks have already gone in. Do you have a time frame when you'll achieve this aim, or will this be indefinite? Because there are fears that Israeli forces could be in Gaza for a very long time.
I agree. The time frame is reaching the goals. Whenever we will reach the goals, we will probably stop. But I cannot put a time frame on that. I don't know how much time it will take us. We know what are the goals. They are very clear goals, and we are working to achieve them.
In a country like India, which is a victim of radical Islamist terror, of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, Pakistan state-sponsored terror, Ambassador, a senior head honcho of the Hamas was given a platform, Khalid Mashal, in Kerala. As a victim of terror, how do you look at it as Israel's ambassador to India?
I think that, and I saw also in the Hindu, I think there was also an interview with another Hamas leader. I think that this is morally very problematic, very problematic. I mean, it's true that Hamas is recognized in more than 40 countries, all the European Union, US, UK, and others, as terror organization. In India, it was not yet declared as such, although if you go to the tweets of Prime Minister Modi ji after the attack and afterwards, he was very clear about the terroristic nature of Hamas's actions. I think it's morally really problematic to have these people get here a voice, do disinformation and incite. I don't know if you saw what Khalid Mashal spoke about, but he spoke about preparing for jihad, calling the people there to go to the streets and the squares in order to put pressure, to protest and put pressure on the governments, and he called for financing of the terror organization, of the resistance, as he called it. So when you look at it, this incitement, I think it's really bad. Why does anyone want to give this brutal terror, ISIS-like organization the voice on and to speak to Indian people, to spread their hate? I think it's a huge mistake.
Why do you think it's happening? What's your assessment?
I cannot say why it's happening. I think that people are, whoever saw what happened on October 7th, the brutality, the videos that came out, the pictures, and is still speaking to Hamas as if they are a legitimate organization, I think this is already a huge, huge problem. They should be delegitimized. Does anyone want to go and wanted in the past to go and speak to Osama bin Laden to understand his views of why he was doing the atrocities, why he brought down the Twin Towers? It's terrible. It's terrible that anyone, after raping and cutting, beheading babies and torturing people, that you can still speak to them and give them the microphone to speak to anyone.
Is the world divided, and is this a cause for concern in Israel's war against Hamas? For the simple reason that many consider what happened on the 7th of October, on one side, they're saying, yes, even if that was wrong, what Israel is doing with babies dying in Gaza Strip and with women dying at the Gaza Strip, two wrongs don't make a right, Ambassador.
So I think that it's so awkward, so unright, so to compare a brutal attack in the morning of a Jewish holiday on Saturday in the homes of people when they were sleeping in beds, go and brutally, it's not only killing, it's also torturing, it's also many, many other things. You do that and you compare it to the Israel Defense Forces who are coming to neutralize the threat of Hamas, when Hamas, for years, is shooting out of hospitals and civilian places and schools because they know they cannot compete with Israel. They are chicken. They will go to civilian places where they're not protected and butcher them. But when IDF wants to come in and take an action, they want to take out the victim card. So immediately they come out with a victim card. We do the utmost to prevent hurt of population, and they do the utmost to have their population hit And you see what happened even with the misfired rocket, by the way, that went to the hospital. And after 5 minutes, they could already say that it was an Israeli attack, and 471 bodies were counted in 5-10 minutes. I mean, it was fake news, totally fake news. 20% of their rockets, they shot at Israel so far more than 8,000 rockets. So calculate, more than 150 rockets fell inside, on their own population, inside Gaza, misfired. So, you know, the situation is very complex. We are the ones that are making the maximum to protect the civilian population in Gaza. Again, we asked them to evacuate. Hamas is threatening them not to leave. They work under the hospitals. Shifa Hospital is known. We took out also a video about it, that under the Shifa Hospital, they are operating, they are taking the electricity of the hospital, they are taking the water of the hospital, all the facilities, and they are working under that because they know that we are human enough to be thinking 50 times before we attack the hospital. And this is the issue. And they refuse, they threaten the people, don't leave the area, we need you as human shields. And this is the main problem. You know, you are not working with another democratic nation like Israel, you're working with an ISIS, Hamas terror organization.
So will your ground forces have to go inside tunnels, and does that mean more losses of life for you? Or will, beyond a point, you will start bombing the hospitals and the schools and the mosques underneath which you say are Hamas strongholds and how their command and control centers and ammunition dumps?
We will work according to international law and do whatever we need in order to get Hamas neutralized. As we said, of course, they are all hiding underground and letting the population protect them from above. I don't know tactics, if we go into tunnels or we have other means, we will find the right means. Tunnels will not be a safe haven for them. We will go after them wherever they are. Also, people who are leadership who is not in Gaza, I would advise them really to look over their back every day, because we are not going to, anyone connected to what happened is going to pay a price sooner or later.
Even if they're in Qatar, if they're in their safe havens or 5 stars, as Israel puts it, they're safe in 5 stars in Qatar.
Even the leaders that are sitting in different places, especially in Qatar, but not only, in a very luxurious life and letting their people in Gaza, and they're rich, very rich people by their own, I mean, they accumulated money through Hamas and terror organization. No one should sleep well at night. We will get to all of them, one way or another. We know exactly who are the people behind it. And of course, the big octopus that is sending its arm is Iran. So if we look at it, Iran is the main instigator of whatever we see, because it's not Iran was arming, training, equipping Hamas and financing Hamas for years, and that was known. But you see that, look, who is now trying to threaten and deter Israel from action? Iran itself, by talks and threats. Hezbollah, which is another arm of this octopus, Iran. The Houthis in Yemen, that are known proxies of Iran, are trying to shoot at Israel, intercepted by the Americans and by us. From Syria, also, Shiite groups. So the Iranians are the ones masterminding all of that, and one has to remember what is the head of the octopus, or the snake in this case, and we will find a way for having everyone pay their dues when it comes to it.
In your travels through Israel, it's very difficult not to bump into army veterans. This is a highly militarized society, and there are many, many persons in civil society who once served in the military. One of them said something to me yesterday that really struck me. Quoting the Israeli defense minister, who said, "We will prevail and we will win in Gaza," this particular veteran scoffed and he said, "Winning in Gaza is not a big deal. Israel is a much mightier power. It has many more weapons and it can completely exhaust and overwhelm Hamas if it chooses to. The real victory," he said, "was to bring all of those 229 hostages back safely. That is the war that needs to be won." And given that over 3 weeks after that terror attack, there is no let-up in the hostage crisis, the relatives and friends of the captives in the Gaza Strip are running out of patience, and they're very angry. Take a look at this.
A group lobbying for the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas say the safety of their loved ones needs to be a top priority for the government. Their concerns come as the Israeli military expands ground operations in the Gaza Strip.
Keep pushing.
Adva Adar believes her 85-year-old grandmother is in Gaza, based on photos and footage purporting to show her capture. Reuters could not independently verify the location or date of filming of videos showing hostages being kidnapped.
My grandmother doesn't have the time to wait. She needs to be back home now. She's ill and she needs medication and she needs medical care.
On Saturday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel's goals in the war were to destroy Hamas's governing and military capabilities, as well as return the more than 200 hostages.
As her boyfriend, I truly afraid that these two goals is like in conflict with each other.
Noam Alon's girlfriend, Inbar Hyman, is one of the hostages.
I think that first, the hostages should be free.
Israel has tightened its blockade and bombarded Gaza since Hamas gunmen stormed across the border into Israel on October 7th, killing at least 1,400 people, as well as taking the hostages.
We are not political people or, military people. We are two simple people that try to save our sister.
Leah and Leon Yanai believe their sister Moran was taken hostage at the Nova Music Festival.
We found a clip from TikTok with begging for her life.
And they say time is of the essence.
If Moran is listening to us, Moran, we are united together. We love you so much.
Continue to be positive as you are, and think about the big hugs we're all going to give you when you come back. And I want you to know that we're doing everything we can to bring you back home as soon as possible.
The anger of hostage families has been resonating through the cities and streets of Israel. We've spoken to many hostage families, relatives and friends. I've reported from many of those protests. Just yesterday, there was a particularly angry and a particularly loud protest by relatives and friends looking to raise the heat, raise temperatures and pile the pressure on the Netanyahu government. Here's that report by India Today's Rajesh Pawar.
This big crowd of people you see behind me, this is in the center of Tel Aviv city. This crowd is of the people who are relatives, friends of people who were abducted by the terrorists of Hamas on 7th of October. But it is not only the relatives and the friends. These are common people of Tel Aviv city and of Israel who have come here to show their solidarity with these people. And a lot of them are demanding that government should do a prisoner exchange. They should leave these Palestinian terrorists, which they are demanding 6,000 of them in exchange for these hostages. Some of them are demanding that this war and air raids and the ground incursion which is being carried out by IDF in Gaza City should be stopped at least till the time these prisoners are brought back safely. What are you writing here? What are you writing here?
I'm writing the names of two grandchildren of my best friends. They are captured by the Hamas. They are soldiers.
You're writing their names?
Yes.
מה זה ילד שלי או ילד של אחרים? מה זה משנה ילד של מי? שלי מהחברה שלי, מהחבר שלי, מהשכן שלי, מאמא שלו, וסבתא שלו, איפה?
This puts huge pressure on Prime Minister Netanyahu and on Israeli government right now how to act to go ahead with their raids and their attack on Hamas in Gaza or to wait till these hostages are released. These are very painful scenes around here, people with tears in their eyes, everywhere sadness, despondency, difficult to describe these scenes. And just a few minutes back, representatives of these people have finished a meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. It's yet to be seen what the Israeli government and the Prime Minister is going to do next with regards to this. Rajesh Pawar, Tel Aviv, India Today.
As we speed towards the Gaza front, southern Israel is peppered with kibbutzes. These were the communes where common people suffered the brunt of the October 7th attack. Whether it was Be'eri, whether it was Kfar Aza, whether it was Holit, where I reported from, whether it was Niroz. All of these places are now just shells of their former selves. Take a look at this report of how the kibbutzes were the most damaged in the attack. Here at the Kibbutz Holit, which is the closest commune to the Gaza Strip, 1,500 meters, I have to tell you this is maybe the 5th or the 6th kibbutz that I'm reporting from near the Gaza Strip. And it feels terribly, terribly voyeuristic walking into people's houses. You know, I know I'm doing this as a part of reporting and for the world to see what happened, but it still feels very unsettling, very uncomfortable. You know, walking into people's broken homes, all of their personal belongings, you know, on camera. It's a terrible feeling, and I understand the irony and, in some ways, the the contradictions that I'm talking about. But I think this is an opportunity for the world to see, and that's why we've come here. India Today, remember, has been reporting on both sides of this terrible, terrible conflict, but as we enter, yet another home, and there's just no light here because it's completely burnt. But this is a home like any other. This could be anybody's house. Fridge completely gutted, pots and pans in the kitchen, completely normal house. Potatoes still in their basket. A coffee table with some fruit still in the fruit tray. A children's bedroom with the glass completely cracked. There are some people here from the Zaka group who are, actually helping to clean things up. These are volunteer workers who are helping clean things up so these families can move back in. You can see a bullet hole here through the glass as well. It's terrifying. There's just a smell that hangs in these houses of soot, recently lived in, and just an indescribable smell of death and decay. And if you look at pictures, there are even pictures here. I don't want to go too close to them because these are family pictures of people, and we've been told, please don't show any pictures of the families. We have to respect their privacy, so we're not going to be showing you anything close up. But just to tell you that this is a family home, a happy family. Pictures up on the wall, laughing children, parents hugging their newborns. It could be anybody's house. I think that's really what I'm trying to say. So this is a report that's going to be unforgettable for anyone who's been here, and it's truly terrifying. I'm inside one of the most damaged homes here at Kibbutz Holit. This is about 1.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip, and it's absolute devastation everywhere you look. I'm starting here in one of the smallest bedrooms of the house. It's completely gutted. Just wait for a second. I'm going to show you because I'm going to walk into the living room. As you can see, everything is burnt. The walls are completely black. Everything covered in fire dust and soot. There are pictures here. There are burnt pages. There's just nothing left. Just remnants of a family. You can see some pictures on the bed. You can see some documents here. Obviously, the people here, we don't know if this particular family survived, but 10 people are said to have been butchered by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th here at this. This is one of the smallest kibbutzes in Israel. We don't know if any of the people here were taken hostages, but this is, like I said, just 1.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip, so the terrorists would have made their way here very, very quickly. If you can just look all around, it's just complete and utter devastation. It's all completely burnt. A bookshelf there, a small religious text on what must have been some kind of a clothes horse, somebody's university degree leaning against the wall there. Everything's smashed up, burnt, mangled remains. This is, reporting this is strange because this has become a familiar sight. You've seen what has happened to kibbutzes across this part of Israel, through coverage over the last few days. Kitchen shelves. This is the kitchen of the house, all completely burnt. There are still pots and pans and tins and products inside the shelves. This was a family that was living here. The Israeli Defense Forces don't make any specific claims about whether this particular family is alive or dead. They're very sensitive about revealing any information, so we can only guess whether the family that lived in this particular house is actually alive. In fact, there's a picture of the family, and I just wanted to, maybe show it to you for a moment, because that's really all that's left here. All that's left of, family life. People living a quiet life here, very close to the Gaza Strip. Just gone in a terrible black blaze. I'm going to continue to report from here. There's just an overwhelming smell of soot inside this house. The house just fading to black, and we don't know about the family. As I report 1,500 meters from the Gaza Strip, the big question continues to hover over this entire crisis. What next is Israel going to do? Can Israel do what it has done before? What compulsions will shape Israel's next actions? And as this continues, remember that the Hamas, in parts of the Gaza Strip right behind me, will be ready, will be more capable, will be better armed, and will perhaps have even recuperated. Each day that passes brings a new challenge for Israel. 1,500 meters from the Gaza Strip, as part of a very small group of journalists permitted access, as every other access point near Gaza has been shut off now. Shiv Arur for India Today. It's day 3 of Israel's big ground operation against the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. From here, just 2.5 kilometers from northern Gaza, we can hear artillery pounding, we can see jets continuing to circle, and the intensity of the combat increasing. The Israeli Defense Forces have told us that 600 airstrikes in the last 24 hours make it one of the most aggressive days so far, in which multiple Hamas targets have been destroyed. Very interesting development is that the special forces of the Israeli defense establishment, who are inside the Gaza Strip, have been providing real-time targeting information to fighter aircraft and command centers, allowing for even more accurate bombing inside the Gaza Strip. Staging areas, we are told, have been hit by the Israeli army and the tanks inside the Gaza Strip, where tens of terrorists are said to have been killed. Anti-tank missile positions, which have proven to be an extremely potent threat to Israeli Merkava tanks and armored personnel carriers, as well as infantry, have apparently been taken out in large numbers. Operators of drones have been eliminated. 600 airstrikes in all of them in the northern part of Gaza, some of them that we witnessed between yesterday and today as well. We can even hear them from where we're standing right now at the Kibbutz Niroz, 2.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. As we continue to report, the big question, of course, now is what next? Where is this ground operation headed? The Defense Minister of Israel has talked about how this is going to be a long and hard battle inside the Gaza Strip. But the big question is, what is the end game? Are they going to be able to completely eliminate and defang the Hamas. What is the assurance that after this long and bloody battle, the Hamas will not be able to rise from the ashes as it has in the past? The Israel Defense Forces are using some of their potent strength because it is overwhelmingly more powerful than Hamas. But the big question continues to remain, what happens after 5, 6 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, a month? How long is it going to go on for? Because remember, the hostage crisis continues to fester and simmer. It has intensified, like we first reported here on India Today. Shani Luk, the German Israeli party goer whose body was found being paraded by Hamas terrorists in the early days after the attack, has been found dead by soldiers inside Gaza. Her body has been brought back and her family has officially announced her death. But what about the other 225 odd hostages who continue to be in there? The Hamas says the airstrikes have killed and threatened to kill many of the hostages as a result of them being in places which are being struck by the Israeli Air Force. But that appears not to have deterred the Israeli Defense Forces even one single bit, because on day 3, the intensity of the attacks inside Gaza have only just increased. In southern Israel, 2.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip, Shivarur for India Today. It's the worst nightmare for the Jewish community and the people of Israel, watching pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas protests sweeping different capitals of the world. But the images coming in from Dagestan in Russia were particularly upsetting. Those images have gone viral of a massive lynch mob storming into an airport, hunting for Israeli passengers who were rumored to have been on a flight that landed in the city. Take a look at this report. Viewer discretion is advised.
Scary scenes playing out at the Dagestan airport in Russia. Murderous mob chanting Allahu Akbar religious slogans, hunting for Jews. The Islamist mob went searching from room to room and even the tarmac to hunt down Israelis after reports of an Israeli plane landing. Thousands of radicals assembled at the Russian airport in Dagestan. Hundreds of rioters from Russia's predominantly Muslim region of Dagestan stormed the airport, waving Palestine flag, and went after passengers who arrived from Israel. Chilling terror engulfed a bus full of kids and women when the mob stopped them in front of the airport only to see if they are Israelis.
The Islamic mobs in Dagestan, in Makhachkala, the capital, are hunting Jews on the airport tarmac, in the malls and everywhere in city. There are about 400 families of Jews living in Dagestan, in southern part of Russia. Israeli government is in constant touch with the Russian authorities, and the rabbi in Dagestan has advised all these 400 families to leave Dagestan.
Anti-Jew mob broke past multiple security cordons. With some making it onto the runway of the airport. The bloodthirsty mob even reached the tarmac and scanned the plane to hunt for Jews, even checking the engine of the plane to pull out any hiding Jews. The mob even forcibly went through everybody's passports to see if they are Jews. Amid the chaos, Russia shut Dagestan airport until November 6th. Israel urged Russian authorities to protect Israelis and Jews in their jurisdiction. Russia's investigative committee ordered a criminal investigation into the incident. It's not just Russia. Anti-Jewish hate-mongering is being reported from US universities and London, where posters of Israeli hostages have been torn and anti-Jew slogans were raised. Jewish schools in London had to be shut down amid security threat. With Rajesh Pawar in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.